Today's prompt is reminding me why I don't like having to choose my favorites, because how can I choose just 5 or just like 3 or anything? It's so hard. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So very excited that you're here. It is the first Top 5 Wednesday of August. I'm very excited for all this month's prompts, including today's. Even if I really don't like having to choose my favorites, like I don't know how to narrow it down. I don't know, what do you use to make sure that it's your favorite and you're not just saying it because it's your mood that's like reflecting your said favorite? Like, I don't know what to do. But anyway, in case if you're not familiar with Top 5 Wednesday, in a nutshell, basically each week I answer a prompt using 5 books, but in this case I do manga to reflect the said prompt. And today's prompt is your current favorites. We're sort of doing a mid-year check-in. Yes, we're a little bit late because technically July was last month and that would have been mid-year. But anyway, at this point we've probably read tons and tons of books, hopefully plenty of new favorites that we've really enjoyed. What have been our 5 favorite books that we've read this year? And I didn't know how to narrow it down. I feel happy with my picks, though it's sort of funny because some of these are not actually on like this chart that I've been using, and I'll leave it here if you want to check it out. Basically each month been saying what is my favorite book of that month. I think it's accurate. It's really hard because I feel like I have like 3 favorites from that month, so I don't know actually how accurate it is. Like Gap Papa is not on there, and Gap Papa is definitely one of my favorite reads this year so far. So I did my best. I know one of my rules, it cannot be considered a favorite unless I've read it 2 times or more. I don't know why, that's just sort of my go-to thing for anything that I call a favorite. For number 1, I was like, Laura, you need to talk about this more on your channel because I don't know if I featured any of my Top 5 Wednesday videos, but that is The Invisible Man and His Soon-to-Be Wife. I love this manga so incredibly much. It is so, I want to say heartwarming, but I don't feel that's the right word. It gives me all the warm fuzzies though. It is such a sweet and wholesome, precious romance between this young woman who is blind and this young man that is invisible. They work at a place solving different cases. It's some kind of detective agency, so they help solve different cases. Like there's one case in here where they have a stalker. They are hired to try and find out who and why is stalking their client, basically. And oh my goodness, there's just so many different things I deeply enjoyed about this volume. I love the Dark Elf. Like, he's probably my favorite character because he's just hilarious. I always appreciate him on page. I hope he's in volume 2. I'm so glad that volume 2 comes out this month. I really need it. It's one of my most anticipated releases this month because I just feel like there's something really precious about their relationship, how they're able to see each other without really being able to see one another, if that makes sense. And it's also fully colored. I said covered at first, but fully colored. It's interesting because it reminds me a little bit of a Dr. Seuss book with that kind of teal blue color. Maybe that sounds weird. Definitely not Dr. Seuss vibes, but just the color itself reminds me of like the old Dr. Seuss books. I love this story so much. I actually reread it this morning and I was like, it is just as wonderful as the first few times that I read it, because this is one of the few volumes I read it that same day that it arrived. And I was like, you know what? I love this so much and I'm so happy right now. I'm just gonna reread it again. And that's exactly what I did. I really hope that I love it just as much as this one. I feel like I have high expectations. I'm not trying to, but I just feel like I loved it so much that it's one of my like happy seinen reads that I'm like, please be as fulfilling as this one is, because everything, all of the characters were great. The main character, the way that the romance is sort of like a slow burn, but not too slow. It's very precious, very sweet. I absolutely adored the ending and I'm like, I need more of this series. Hopefully we'll get volume 3 before the year ends because I need more of it. I love it so much. So if you need a very sweet, slow burn, not an office rom-com, but a romance that unfolds at the workplace with some really great side characters, this would be a great one to check out, especially if you don't want something that's overwhelmingly funny, but you do like a little bit of humor sprinkled throughout. This one has it and delivers. For number 2, I'm so excited to feature this one, and that is The Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are amazing. This is going to be in my top 10 favorite reads unless something drastic happens in Volume 3. I think Volume 4 comes out in December, so if anything happens in those those volumes that's so drastic that changes my mind, this series is going to be in it. I came into this series thinking I'm probably going to like it, but I'm not going to love it. I loved volume 1, and then I loved volume 2 even more. I believe this was my favorite read for last month, and just, oh my gosh, our main girl is obsessed with muscles. I mean, she leaves her hometown, basically. She's told by the prince that if she comes with them, she could see so many more muscles, even buffer muscles than his assistant right-hand man. And she's like, okay, I will go with you to the capital to go help sick people because there's gonna be muscles. And I love her so much for that. Like, it is my favorite part of her character because she's just hilarious. Like, and she's very frank and very blunt. She says things with like no kind of tact whatsoever. And it's like, girl, you could have worded that a little bit different, even though you were right. She's just like, what's wrong? I don't understand. Thankfully, her assistant, I feel like he's sort of like a brother-like figure to her. He steps in, he does some damage control and helps things out. I love them both. I mean, this manga is phenomenal. I think if you like the Apothecary Diaries, but you want something that's, I think, a little bit lighter, maybe, there's less political intrigue and there's more humor, this would be a really good one to check out. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe the humor, it's been a while since I've read the Apothecary Diaries, but I feel like if you like that Chinese inspired setting and you do like some of the political scheming that's going on within the palace, just that's not nearly as intense in this volume, or in this series, I should say, and just the humor with these quirky female leads, this is definitely a great one to check out. I'm very, very excited for where this story is going. The romance is not prevalent right now, and it definitely shares that with the Apothecary Diaries, where you're already shipping the main leads, but it's like super slow burn, and you're just living for those moments where you're like, oh my goodness, looks like the ship is gonna sail. There is definitely one scene in here that was like, yes, let this be our foreshadowing to our leads getting together, because I really like them as individuals and definitely know I'm gonna love them together. It is such a fun story, very much strongly recommended, and cannot wait for more volumes. For number 3, this one is very different from all of my other picks, but I love this manga, and that is My Girlfriend's Child. I recently read volume 2, and it just well exceeded everything I loved about volume 1. I really enjoyed volume 1, but volume 2, when I think of titles that stood out to me last month, and I'll share more of that on Friday in my reading wrap up, My Girlfriend's Child stands out above the rest. I mean, there were definitely a lot of things I read this month that I'm like, I hope that I made the right decision, but I don't even know how to explain why this series is so deeply impactful. There's not a lot of dialogue, but the panels and the art style really convey a lot of the feelings that's going on with our main girl. And there was a lot of things that were happening in this volume that has me really on edge. I feel like the ending wasn't necessarily suspenseful in the sense of I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next, to be honest, but I feel like it has more of a hopeful ending for our main girl. Her partner, oh my gosh, he is one of the best partners I've ever seen in manga. He is amazing, and I cannot recommend this manga enough. It's very different. I originally picked it up because I knew 2 or 3 young women who were pregnant when I was in high school, and so I wanted to read this to maybe have my eyes open to maybe what they were going through, and I feel like this has definitely accomplished that in learning more and having more understanding. I can't imagine being in our young lady's shoes here at all, or any person's shoes when it comes to being pregnant in high school, but I'm so appreciative of this story and how it is just so eye-opening and very, very moving. I love the characters. I feel like that was not as excited as my other previous 2 picks that I've shared so far, but this is such a phenomenal series. If you're sort of like, well, I just don't know, this is definitely a deeper topic for manga. It's not my typical fluff that I read, but it's one that I just cannot wait for volume 3. Already looked and see what volumes are coming out next and when, so I can make sure that my budget is ready and then I can grab these volumes. For number 4, I feel like it can't be a current favorite video if I do not feature a Villainess manga. I was actually sort of conflicted because I thought about doing 2 of them, but I went with this one in the end, and that is the Villainess Stands the Heroes, playing the antagonist to support her faves. I love this manga so much, and I'm so thankful that Yen Press released this. I've read this a good 2 or 3 times. It's definitely lived rent-free in my head. Our main girl is so incredibly relatable. I'm like, girl, if I was in your shoes, yes, I would be the exact same way. Her expressions when she is interacting with her favorites is complete gold. Like, this is how she's supposed to be acting, but this is how she's really, wait, is this the right one? That's not the right one. Hold on, let me find a better one where she, like, it shows, like, what she's really feeling. Like, here we go. But this inside is how she's really feeling. Like, she's so excited to interact with her favorite characters from this Otome game that she has been reincarnated into. It doesn't even matter that she's the villainess. She's like, I don't care. I'm just seeing and interacting with my favorites. She supports them in her own way. And of course, she has her best boy. And the way that she talks about him and the way that their relationship unfolds is everything. It is definitely one of my favorite parts. I am so incredibly eager for volume 2 because I have loved this series so much. And I'm like, I feel like it's really underrated. And I will confess that even I was like, I don't know about this. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to check it out. I'm so glad I did, because if I did not, I would have been really upset with my future or past self, or one of my selves. Look how cute he is. The art is amazing. It's so beautiful. I really love the expressions. I just love everything that unfolds in this volume. I really, really need volume 2 because it is definitely one of my favorite villainous stories I've ever read. It's so relatable. I think that's why I love it so incredibly much. Like, just again, how she acts with her favorites. I honestly feel like I'd be the same way. I highly recommend this if you enjoy villainous manga. I feel like this will probably be in my top 10 favorites as well, unless something changes with volume 2, which I hope not. The romance has been a little bit slow burn, but super sweet. And I'm like, I just need more. I just need more. Like, this is definitely one of the series I was for a long time, like checking Amazon, like, when is it going to release? When is it going to release? Give me volume 2. Thankfully, it is coming. Can't recommend this series enough. For number 5, it is a manual, but I have to put this on here because I am obsessed with this, and that is Villains Are Destined to Die. This series has been amazing. I love Penelope. She slays as a girl boss. I definitely gushed about her in a Top 5 Wednesday video talking about girl bosses. I just love this series. I feel it's, well, I just realized it's another villainous manga. I feel like Penelope hits really differently because she just does not take flack from anybody. I think this is the only time I've read a villainous manga where I legit felt scared for the villainess and that really her life could be taken out. Like, that she was going to hit all the red flags and no longer would be in existence. There was one moment, I think it was in volume 2, I was holding my breath and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, Penelope, girl, you need to be okay. Like, don't let anything bad happen to you. And I honestly feel like that continues through this series. She makes some really interesting decisions where she stands her ground. And I feel like she has this actually really good idea of how she could make sure that she doesn't die or anything and that she lives and has a great life. And I feel like things are just not that simple. And she started realizing this, that who she thought was going to be the end game and keep her good and alive, maybe not so much, even though that character is my favorite so far. I feel like it changes with each volume of who my favorite is. I feel like maybe, hopefully that's a common occurrence for all of us with these Otome game kind of stories of who you're shipping with the main girl. I feel like each volume just continues to get better and better. I never know what to expect. The predictability is like nothing. Like, I never can predict what's going to happen. I'm always excited for who's showing up, even though the prince guy starts with a C. This guy right here, he still scares me. He still scares me. But I know a lot of people who are shipping it with Penelope, and I'm just like, oh, I share that with Penelope and being a little bit afraid every time he comes on page. So I really don't know what to expect, but I'm excited because he seems to be the love interest that's going to have the main focus next volume. Very much looking forward to that. Another villainous isekai that I would definitely recommend, especially if you enjoy colored stories and beautiful art. Penelope is very beautiful and very pretty, and so I definitely always look forward to seeing the artwork and seeing her expressions and what she's going to do, how she's going to handle things, because again, she is a total girl boss. So if you need a villainous manga with a girl boss character, it has to make some really tough decisions where, like, if she makes the wrong decision, that is it. It's over. It's ending. This is one you must check out. Okay, I would say I feel bad, but no, not really. I debated doing, there's a lot of different manga, like I talked about Gap Papa, that would have been a perfect one for the honorable mention, but I wanted to do something that wasn't considered a new release. Grant, I think Villainess Are Destined That Died. Did that come out this year? Or I think it came out late last year, but most of these I tried to feature newer releases, but this one is not a new release, and that is Snow White the Red Hair. When I was looking through my shelf this morning, I saw them and I was looking at the spines and I was like, I really miss my besties. I was like, I really miss them. So I pulled off a random manga off the shelf, or a random volume off the shelf. It was this one. Started rereading it, and I love these characters so incredibly much. They are so beautiful. The way that their friendships grow and how they change as individuals is very inspiring, but also very moving. I really feel like every time I open this book, I'm going to another world, so to speak, and being a friend that's on their adventures of everyday life. And it is such an incredible honor and privilege as a reader to be with these characters. I really need the next volume. It is so very beautiful. Don't ask me which my favorite character is because they're all amazing. Shirayuki is definitely, I think, one of my top favorites. I found her very inspiring and very girl boss in her own special kind of way. Zenhi is amazing. Obi is amazing. Truly, all these characters are phenomenal. And so I really just love that no matter what volume you are in this series, that you can open it up and, like I said, just be teleported where you're no longer in the real world. You're in this world with Shirayuki and Obi and the gang, seeing them flourish as characters. That doesn't mean they don't have hardships, but they have those hardships, they overcome them, and they grow as an individual, and it's inspiring to see, and they come together and they celebrate the achievements they've made along the way. Even if it includes them being separated, they still celebrate for one another, and it is so very beautiful. Cannot recommend it enough. Definitely have a video review on it. I really appreciate every person who's encouraged me, who voted for this, my shoujo event, to read it, because it is such a special place in my heart, and I felt like it had to be mentioned for current favorites. I feel like I'm always keeping an eye out now for Snow White the Red Hair merch online, for new pens, and I'm like, I need it all. I need it all to bring these characters into my world so that they could be with me on my everyday adventure. And that, my friends, wraps up my picks for current favorites that I feel pretty confident are actual truth and not just like, you know what, tomorrow it's going to be a different favorite, which still might happen anyway. But I would love to hear from you, friends. What are some of your current favorites from this year that you have read? I would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!